Welcome back to the Local Footy Show, and time for another Golden Days, fellas.
Oh, I like that Caulfield and Coburg stuff last week, Dad.
It was great. Now, thanks to our good mate George for once again helping us out with that great footage, and wasn't it clear? And brought back so many memories. Caulfield and Coburg, Phil Cleary with the long hair, and John Einsadell.
Yeah, it was pretty good stuff, I reckon.
Great old ground, that Caulfield ground. And what I noticed too, I didn't notice this before, geez, Phil Cleary had a bad kicking technique, didn't he? It was very unique and strange.
And you know Mark Fine from SEM was down behind the goals?
Was he really?
Well, he reckons he was. No, I don't know what he looked like as a kid, but that's what, you know, I think he was there.
He's not very tall, Fine. He'd hardly get over the fence, would he?
But thanks, George, for that. And we've got some more great footage today. This time we go down to the Mornington Peninsula because Mornington is playing in our match highlights today, of course, Mount Eliza and Mornington. They're a very old club, as we found out earlier, and they've played some great finals. This one was way back in 1956. So there we go, fellas. 59 years ago, Frankston Park, 1956 grand final, Mornington doing battle with Seaford.
And the traditional team colours haven't changed much over the years, Daz?
Haven't changed much at all. What has changed, Kev, is the parking arrangements around the ground. You can't get your car up there anymore.
But look at all those old cars. Don't they look fantastic?
Seaford the Tigers, Mornington the Bulldogs. And that's pretty good, clear footage from all that time ago.
Yeah,
fantastic.
The goalposts weren't very big in those days.
The old scoreboard there, they're on the board, the Tigers.
Frankston Park looked very different in the old days.
Last time we showed footage from finals at Frankston from all those years ago, we had people call us up saying they saw their mother and their wife as a girl there and all that sort of stuff. Wonder if we'll get any similar phone calls from this one.
And it isn't amazing. Things weren't any different more than 50 years ago. They still played footy out on that outer side away from the camera.
What I love though, Kev, is the yuppies are wearing white.
Me too, Dag, so I reckon that's great. Looks so much better.
And no logos all over the jumpers, either front or back.
Those umpires, they would have been off the VFL list at the time. They didn't have their own umpiring panels in those days.
The old Vauxhall in the forward pocket there. We should try to identify all the cars, but well attended. Good crowd there, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good crowd for a grand final. And a good standard of footy too.
This is more great footage from the Mornington Peninsula Historical Society, the blokes down there who do such a fantastic job and allow us to show this vintage stuff on the Local Footy Show.
And Mornington, of course, a very historical club. They've been around a long time, Daz.
Well, 1888, of course, as we heard earlier on the show, Kev, one of the oldest clubs in Australia, older than a lot of AFL clubs. And you know what I like about this, fellas? Is that there aren't 18 players around the footy. They're in their positions and the players are spread around the ground. That's what I like about it.
And I'll tell you what, the boys have been watching this footage and not once have I seen a water boy, Daryl.
No water boys, how good's that? And nobody holding onto the ball for 5 minutes until they've got the best option to kick it to. They actually kick to a contest.
Get it and kick it long in those days, Daz.
Yeah, well, it won a few premierships for a lot of clubs, of course. Hope that style comes back. There you go, Benny.
The brass band.
There's your mates in the band.
Yeah, good on them. They were the entertainment for the afternoon.
The crowd having a bit of a rest. Ice cream van there, or the donut van, whatever that is.
Players would have bought their gear in the Gladstone bag, wouldn't they?
They would have in those days for sure, Benny. Look at those old cars, eh? What a statement from history that is. Nearly 60 years ago. Local footy. And they're having a kick, but I tell you what, the band was pretty popular. Look at the crowd of groupies they've got walking along beside them.
Yeah, look at the kids, they're loving it.
You wouldn't want the footy to get stuck in the tuba.
And why is it that the players from those days always looked older? They look like kids these days when you watch them seniors play footy, but in those days, they look like old blokes.
Might be the hair slicked back with the brill cream, perhaps.
Or no hair at all there, is that bloke?
A lot of the Seaford players with long sleeves on.
Yeah, well, a lot of not many short sleeves there at all, Benny, or sleeveless Guernseys at all. Yeah, look at the crowd there behind the goals, just packed behind that fence. But it wasn't Mornington's year that year, fellas. Seaford, premiers for 1956.
There'll be a big reunion next year.
Not sure how many will be there, Benny. But what great history captured by the camera all those years ago. Seaford playing Mornington in the 1956 grand final. And we'd love to know if any viewers out there had anybody at the game or played or fathers played or whatever. We'd love to hear from you here in the Local Footy Show. Don't see as many overcoats at the footy these days.
Not at all.
And of course they would have had the grandstand up there as well, would have been packed. So if you recognise anybody in that footage, let us know. And that's three-quarter time. Oranges, the order of the day there, fellas.
Get the boots cleaned.
I used to sit down in the old days at three-quarter time, no standing around.
Do you think they would have been talking about hardball gets or inside 50s?
I don't think they knew what they were in those days.
Those were the days, Kev. Branxton Park, 60 years ago. And we're still seeing great football from the Mornington Peninsula played on that ground every year. That little girl running across there is now nearly 70.
Mr. E. Larson was the coach of Mornington back in 1956, boys, and Mr. T. Ward was the best and fairest winner. So maybe there's some relatives of those two families watching this footage.
So there it was nearly 60 years ago, Mornington and Seaford. Those were the days, fellas.
Mornington, yeah, great stuff, wasn't it?
As we go back to Mornington in 2015, they're taking on Mount Eliza. So, chance now.